Hello, and welcome to this episode of Nucleus Wealth Empower, where I go looking for what the good life is and how finance can support and empower us in achieving that. We've done a lot of episodes on property lately, and today I'm excited to be shifting focus to shares. To help us with that, we're lucky enough to have the CEO of the Australian Shareholders Association here, Rachel Waterhouse, to talk to us about the services they offer and why they're important to shareholders. Before we get into the show, though, a couple of housekeeping items. To start with, I'd like to start in the spirit of reconciliation and acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to the land, sea and community. I pay my respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. A quick reminder before we get started, please keep in mind that today any advice is general in nature and doesn't necessarily relate to your personal circumstances. But if you would like to discuss anything with us, you can give us at Nucleus Wealth a call on 1300 623 863 or contact@nucleuswealth.com. And of course, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, please subscribe or click the notification bell to be notified when we go live with a new webinar to watch, or follow us on your preferred podcast platform to help our show grow. Alrighty, into the show. So Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
To start off with, can you tell us a little bit about what your journey has been to becoming CEO of the Australian Shareholders Association?
Yes, I can let you know my background. So I actually started off with my own shares at the age of about 20. So I started off with managed funds, and then I have bought shares on and off from 20 onwards. So without giving too much away, that's over 20 years of buying and selling shares. I have a small portfolio, and I also have an investment in a house. So like many people, I have bricks and mortar and I have shares as well. And my background is that I worked in finance initially once I finished university. Then I landed into the world of governance, working at the Australian Institute of Company Directors and then the Governance Institute of Australia, and did a graduate diploma in governance. So learnt a lot about governance, which really helps from looking at how companies are performing, because you do want a good performing company to be able to make a return.
Fantastic. Thank you. And so can you describe what the Australian Shareholders Association is and what it is that you do?
Yes, absolutely. The Australian Shareholders Association has over 5,000 members. And what we do is we protect their shareholder rights. And that's really about standing up for them and going to companies where we see something that we don't think is fair or equitable. We also provide a lot of services for our members to really make sure that they're the best investor they can be. And that ranges from education programs, webinars, events, conferences. We also provide voting intentions. So if you're not sure how to vote for an upcoming AGM, our monitors, and we have close to 200 volunteers that are doing this for our members, they have really thought through that company, its performance, strategy, and what we as retail shareholders should be voting for.
So it sounds like your career to date, with a lot of experience in governments, has really prepared you so well for this role at the Australian Shareholders Association, because governance is obviously so important to retail investors. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I would say it's the knowledge of governance that has prepared me for this role, but it's also around the membership experience and really thinking about our members, what they need, and delivering to them. And that's what's been gained in the two previous associations I've worked at.
Yeah, fantastic. And is this an area that you feel particularly strongly about, governance?
Absolutely. I feel that governance personally and also professionally makes a difference to the performance of how companies operate. And when we call them monitors, when our monitors are looking at the organizations that we monitor, what they are doing is they're really thinking through the governance of that organization. So that can range from who's on the board, do they have the right skills, is there a mix, how are they making their decisions. We also look at the remuneration and the remuneration of the CEO, and really a lot of factors around governance making those decisions. And then we have a voting intention. And so what we look for is our retail shareholders pull together their proxies before an AGM, and anyone can provide their proxy to the Australian Shareholders Association. It's as simple as putting it in the AGM platform, filling out a form. And what that does is gives us strength in numbers and make sure that the companies that we are monitoring are really delivering to the expectation of retail shareholders.
Fantastic. So there's a couple of points there I wanted to drill down in a little bit. So firstly is, why is strength in numbers so important?
There are retail shareholders and there are institutional shareholders. And so what we are looking at is we are pulling the retail shareholders, and that's just anyone, it could be mums or dads, retirees that are dependent on their dividends. And we pull those votes so that we can have a say at AGMs. And that say is really important.
Right, because typically as a retail investor, you might own only a few shares of the company, so not a very big proportion compared to obviously some very large, institutions, investors out there that own a lot. And I guess when it comes to voting, that means they have more votes. So that's where for you the pooling is really important.
Absolutely. So pulling together, being able to have a say as an individual with your shares in a collective voice of retail shareholders. We may look at things a different way, but together we can make a difference.
And then the other point that I wanted to go in a bit more depth with you was this idea of governance. And obviously you look at things like board composition and remuneration, but why is governance important to performance, to stock performance?
Well, generally, a lot of research will show you that good governance equals good performance. And as a retail shareholder, you want the company that you're invested in to grow, to provide you a dividend, particularly if you might be a retiree or you're looking for returns. So having good governance is really important to making sure that you've invested in a solid performing company. And that's what you want to do, is you want to make decisions of companies to invest in that are performing well. So thinking about their strategy, that they have a mix of skills, and that mix of skills could be different sectors of board directors that sit on the board. And therefore, you're going to get a better return potentially.
Thanks, Rachel. And so I guess, can you talk to us a little bit about what are some of the examples of areas that have been a focus for the Australian Shareholders Association recently?
Yeah, so one of the things that we are very focused on is that we want to see AGMs held in a hybrid format. And what that really means is we want retail shareholders to be able to attend an AGM in person where that allows and where it's safe to do so, and also have the functionality to attend online. That's really important to us and something that we will fight against if there are any organisations decide to just go online only. So we're looking to have retail shareholders have the option. So that means they can really go into the room, they can eyeball the directors and really hear from them and ask good questions. And, we have seen recently with the AGM season that some of the online platforms have had issues around functionality. So that's one of the things that we are looking at. Also, the volume of AGMs at the moment. There's a lot of AGMs happening right now, every week, every day. The team are really focused on working with our volunteers around assessing the company performance and then making sure that the voting intentions are delivered to our members. So our members are in a position where they get a weekly email, which is from the advocacy and policy team, and that's telling them about the issues that are coming up each week from these AGMs, and also the list of voting intentions and a summary of each AGM report.
And so with the online AGMs or the hybrid AGMs with online and in person, have there been any companies that have just wanted to go straight back to only in-person AGMs?
Only in person. We haven't seen that yet, and we would probably be comfortable with that, to be honest. We would prefer an only physical over an only online. It's very early days as far as the COVID and restrictions and the changes that are happening there. But what we have seen is we have seen companies putting forward resolutions to change their constitution so they can allow virtual only AGMs. And what we have seen, which we're really pleased to see, is that some of these companies have actually been removing those resolutions quite late in the piece. And that's because of feedback they are getting from retail shareholders and also stakeholders. So, it is good to see that some organisations have gone down this path of thinking they were going virtual only, have listened and changed their approach.
Wow. Another thing I was wondering is, do you have a typical sort of member at the Australian Shareholders Association, typical sort of investor that would use your services?
We, like many organisations, really do have a range of members, very, very different, come from all walks of life. So we do focus on 3 forms of member. The ones that are coming in and they're a beginner and they want to know about shares, how to buy shares. They might want to know about different asset vehicles. And then we have the intermediate members that may have, and I'm probably one of those, that may have dabbled in and out and have a portfolio, and they're not yet experienced, but they're on their way to being experienced. And then we have the very experienced, and they could have been share trading for, and often when I say share trading, it's usually buy a good company and hold it is often the strategy I hear our members speak about. Some of those experienced investors, they've been holding their shares for 30 or 40 years, which is unbelievable. So you often hear that when you attend member meetings, and we have 800 to 1,000 members meet on a monthly basis, and they're really sharing their stories of what they've bought, what they're thinking about. And some of these member groups have competitions for, best return for the year. So ultimately, all walks of life. We do have quite a few that have got their own self-managed superannuation fund, and we are seeing more of that because every worker in the country, effectively, they have superannuation. And when it gets to a point in time, they may want to consider having their own, we could say, SMSF fund, and that's a decision for them.
So if somebody wants or is thinking about going down the route of an SMSF, and obviously when you do that, choosing the investments is such an important part of it, they can come to you guys and start on that journey of being able to choose their own investments?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as similar to you, we don't give advice, but we give lots of information. So what we aim to do is provide information in all types of formats, whatever works for the potential member or the member. So we have podcasts and webinars, and we have a magazine of 24 pages of investment content, and it's around upskilling yourself. And we all need to do that so that we can make really good decisions around our money and our investments. And it might be that sometimes there's a specific company that you want to invest in, or other times you may not be aware of an asset such as listed investment companies or the rise of exchange traded funds. So there's a lot to stay on top of, but it is exciting. There's lots of good information, and we do provide that to members.
Thanks. So you mentioned before that you have, up to 1,000 of your members meeting every month. And so where do those meetings happen?
They happen everywhere. So they happen, we've got a meeting in Northern Territory, in every state and territory across Australia. They happen as far as small groups. So sometimes that group could be 4 people, or it could be nearly 30 people that get together. And they might be in a library, or it might be in, some of them are evening meetings in different locations. And so, yeah, they get together and they really get to share their stories. And they may not feel comfortable talking to a friend or family member, but they could talk to a group of people around, what are they doing, what they've learnt. And that collective wisdom could add up to hundreds of years of investment advice just in the one room. So really just listening, and then You just need to make your own decisions around what's right for you and your circumstances.
That's fantastic. So I think the obvious question next is, how do people sign up and become a member? And if you're happy to talk through maybe the fee structure as well to let people know.
Yeah, absolutely. Really easy to sign up. You can go online and sign up there, or you can call the office, or you can even email me. So ceo@asa.asn.au. And we will join you up, and then you get access to everything straight away. And membership starts at about $140. So it really is a good investment in yourself. And depending, we do have different levels. So if you want the printed magazine, it's a different price, but the starting off 1 year, about $140. You can also sign up for 2 years. If you're a savvy investor and save a little bit more money, that's an option too.
All right. So I have one more question that I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts about the current AGM season, and whether there have been any trends or surprises or outliers that you would be happy to share with us.
Yeah, so apart from the conversation around the online versus hybrid AGMs, the other one is there have been a lot of resolutions put to AGMs around climate change or climate action for companies to respond to. And what we are seeing in the listed space, because we're monitoring the top 200 companies, we're seeing the companies that are really focused on this. They've got targets around climate. They've got climate action, but they also have risks that they're thinking about. So that's one of the trends that we are seeing. It's been quite interesting, and our members get very interested around AGMs and watching them. It's a bit like a movie at times. So I guess with the online format, it just means retail shareholders can go online and you can watch it, and you can really see your directors and the CEO talking about the performance, and it gives you a good sense of, do you want to remain a shareholder in that company? And that could be a yes, or it could be I want more shares. But yeah, you get to see them live and in action. But yeah, I'd say those are probably the two main things that we are seeing, is the resolutions on climate and also the virtual AGMs versus hybrid.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like it makes it more accessible and allows people to become more engaged in their investment, that they can so easily log into the AGM.
Absolutely. And on our website, we have upcoming AGMs. For those that do love to watch a good AGM, you don't have to be a shareholder in that company. So you can actually go in as a guest and watch any AGM that's coming up.
Great. So a great way to get started if you're not sure. Have a look.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for your time today, Rachel. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing what the Australian Shareholders Association does. So you've already shared the contact details, but I'll make sure that they're in the show notes for anyone who wants to get those. And also, earlier on you said that you have an upcoming conference for listed investment companies and ETFs. And I know we have an offer, so I was wondering if you'd be able to share that with the listeners, what they can do to take that up.
Thank you so much. Yes, we do have a special offer. We have a virtual investment forum happening on the 23rd and 25th of November. One day is dedicated to learning more around exchange traded funds. The second day around listed investment companies. So that's ETFs and LICs for short. And really it's around how you can grow your portfolio through thinking about these asset classes that you may or may not have. ETFs are growing substantially and they are very popular with all investors, young, old. So something to learn about. And it is live on a platform that's quite exciting, but also available as a recorded version. And they're half days. So you can watch it live. You can ask questions and then you can watch it later. And we do have an offer. So that offer is to become a member, access the 2-day event and get a really good percentage off. So yes, I hope you become a member and attend the event.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Shelley.
My absolute pleasure. So before I say goodbye for today, if you have, as a listener, any feedback for me about this episode or any ideas you have for future podcast topics, please let me know in the YouTube comment section or send me an email at contact@nucleuswealth.com. Did you know Nucleus Wealth also offers personalized investment portfolios as well as limited investment advice? You can find out more at nucleuswealth.com or give us a call on 1300 623 863. And finally, if you know anyone, a friend, family, colleague that might get something out of today's episode, we hope that you'll share it with them and let them know about it to help our show grow. So until next time, from myself and the team, we hope you have a good one.